Friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talk Stuff Ukraine War update for the 7th of June 2026. I'm your host, the author David Applegate, author of the books The Boyhood of Cain, Power Games, Into the Elsmouths, and The Erotic Tales from the Empire. The Ukraine War is a tragic tale of a falling out between friends, though they did not start as friends. Ukraine started a revolution that spread and destroyed the region. They came to be partners in an alliance where Ukraine was the boot on the rest of the neck of Eastern Europe. Ukraine has pride, arrogance, and foolishness blended into its DNA. It is the land between lands, between the Lithuanian Commonwealth and the Russian Federation. Whether you like it or not, Eastern Europe, though long gone, the Warsaw Pact, and before that the Lithuanian Commonwealth, is still baked into the middle, or should say the Central Powers, which includes Germany. Now, in the grand scheme of things, the Eastern Powers, Germany, Poland, even Belarus, Ukraine, and all the smaller Eastern European countries should be banded together in an economic union, with France and Britain on the outside. They are their enemies. France is their enemy. It still is. It is still their rival power. It doesn't act like a friend. Right now, Ukraine is not a friend of Europe. It is the college roommate who puts his hand in your pocket every weekend. He's that junkie that lives under your porch, whether you know it or not. They're reaching in, taking. They give nothing in return. And billions upon billions of dollars spent on what? The egos of Her Zelensky. Now, if this was truly an invasion set out to conquer Ukraine, I'd tell you that. But I'm telling you, there is no evidence of mass mobilization or a conquest or a threat to the rest of Europe. This is the same rhetoric as in the Cold War, and I'm telling you right now, I'm not sure if it's in the Brezhnev papers or the later years released by Gorbachev under him, but several Russian premiers all wrote the fear of an invasion by NATO and the breaking up of Russia being the primary goal of NATO, and England has said the quiet part out loud. Pardon. Even Keir Starmer said, you must break up Russia. It's an existential threat. No, that's called paranoia. Normal people get locked up for such problematic thinking. As a result of the attack on St. Petersburg, Russia has yet to fully retaliate, but they do engage in. Now, they attacked a facility near the Belarusian border here east of Chernihiv in the Chernobyl nuclear power plant zone. Why would they do that? Because Ukrainian forces Yes. Ukrainian forces were in the exclusion zone, and Russia attacked them. Russia attacked Ukrainian forces outside of Zaporozhye, in Kherson, in Odessa. They attacked 2 boats of the Ukrainian. The Ukrainians claimed they were on a search and rescue mission. No, they were trying to deploy naval divers in the... They weren't here. They were out here. They fled. They were chased by Russians. Reportedly having tried to set divers off the coast of Crimea, posing as search and rescue. Yeah, and they fled. Ukraine has always maintained garbage tier. If they were real search and rescue boats, Ukraine News would have showed them straight away, not showing the boats later turned over in their waters just offshore. No, that's propaganda. You produce the evidence a minutoire, or it's not evidence, right? It's different in a court case where evidence is gathered, photographed, etc. No, it's ain't forensics. News ain't forensics. They do not follow the rules of forensics. They follow the rules of clickbaiting and power. And whatever gives them more power, they go with. So it's as far as I'm concerned, Ukrainian propaganda. Because you don't produce the evidence hours later. Oh, we have to investigate first. No, you don't need to investigate to show us the picture of the attack site or the overturned boats. No, people always call me Russian propaganda, but they never think. They never watch my videos. So here's the Ukraine map today. And as you can see, most of the attacks are in the usual places. And as usual, per Russian grind, there isn't many places where there's changes to the map. Now, a small change is the incursion into Krasny Luka, Kryva Luka, I think. Yes, no, north of Kryva Luka. The Russians are pushing further into the forest. Both sides use the forest to circumvent the roads, to get around each other's positions, to attack each other's flanks, here and up here, all through here, travelling up, bringing supplies to linemen. So the Russians come to try and lay not mines, drones, although they probably do also lay mines, but snipers as well. It's probably very dangerous, probably one of the most dangerous missions for Ukrainian patrols right now, to flush out the Russian snipers, because a lot of them aren't carrying sniper rifles, they're carrying laser designators. All right, so we've got action was reported here in Russian news, but not in Ukrainian. Just here. So action along here, only reported as this. Street fighting in Krasnokovia. uh, exchanges between the Ukrainians and Russians here and here. But most parts, more of the same. Just more pot shots. What's this one? Clashes yesterday. Yeah. Ukrainians tried to push through the Russian lines towards Ronitsky and were intercepted and eliminated. The last bits of Ronitsky have been fought over. Sorry. While this important junction, the river crossing, controlling it will basically seal off the rest of this, meaning Ukrainians can't come round. Means Russia controls both sides of the canal or river, and the Ukrainians can still cross further up here, but they can't come round to try and flank the Russians here. When this falls, this all falls, and the Russians will advance up to here. For now, they're trying to draw the Ukrainians back to here by attacking them up here. Still haven't fully captured. The local commander is probably desperate to redeem himself. But it's like many villages on the border. Now, Orkiv is mostly evacuated. There were calls for evacuations. I think these were evacuated a week ago. These were evacuated a long time ago. A lot of these were evacuated a long time ago. Most of these towns are pretty burnt out or emptied. Tis what it is, I guess. But Ukraine has taken its fourth hit in debt repayments. In order to borrow money, they have to show they can repay, well, at least some of their IMF loans. The problem is they're selling off their gold and silver and bonds to pay their debts, because you can only buy so much with debt. You have to pay hard currency, and sometimes that hard currency is coming at a cost because the value of the Ukrainian peso has fallen, which means they've had to sell off assets to pay. Zelensky's begging Russia to stop the war, and Russia just says, no, we offered you to stop the war, and Ukraine says, no, we offered you to stop this losing war. And Russia says, really, comrade, you're the one losing land to us. So, but we're destroying your factories, blah, blah, blah. We can rebuild those, but can you rebuild? Your economy has fallen. Ukraine's economy decreased by 5.2%. Russia's increased by 1.8%. It could have been 5.6% if it wasn't for the fuel cap. Of course, China and India love the fuel cap to get cheap fuel. So much for the great BRICS alliance, right? Now, according to preliminary data, so the international reserves were 45,726,000,000. They've fallen. The Ukrainian National Bank has the exchange market decreased by 12.4%, according to the national balance sheet. They sold 3,134.9 million in reserves. And they have other accounts too, which they're being drained slowly of. These are debt repayments. If they cannot meet them through exports, which is why China exports so much, to hide its debt repayments. And eventually, I'm sick of those ads, but some of the Ukrainian news and other news services won't work with an ad blocker, so you get crappy ads about toenail fungus or bikini ads. Don't combine the two, I say. All right, so this contradicts Ukraine last month, where Zelensky was talking about an increase in productivity. How can you have an increase in productivity with a decrease in manpower? That's right. They put women to work and they put more into they are training women to replace their police and fire services because they are going to start sending them to the front. But Russia's losing the war, right? Obviously. Otherwise, yes. All right. Empire Valves, that's one word, empirevalves.myshopify.com. This channel is sponsored by you, the viewing audience. We do not receive money from Israel, Canada, UK, or no one's receiving money from Ukraine. But generally, Ukraine glazers don't want to support this channel because they don't like the truth. They want to be told, they want to see pictures of Russian tanks blowing up. Even when they're, CGI. Oh, bad CGI at that. Why don't you just go out and hire Michael Bay? He'll do it for you. All right, some people only want to see pictures of tanks blowing up. And, I don't have enough money to subscribe to these elite services that... As I said, new artwork. What little money I have, I'm putting into bringing my writing to life. This is the beautiful Sora. Sora does not just mean sky. Boundless, endless beauty and promise. Just don't play football with her. She's got a mean kick. All right. And of course, I'm expanding the product range. We have the Red Dragon Queen, Clear Mordia. Clear Mordia, one of the oldest in the known universe. The ancient dragon queen, who was there during the elves' darkest times, the dark civil war that tore their society apart, and is now witnessing it coming back together after over 10,000 years. Moving on. Russia has increased production of body armor, particularly military, general purpose body armor. Right, increasingly Russian soldiers are wearing body armor, and this is the new design, though this is the second they do already have combat vests, that this is the second iteration of that. Now, the first iteration was probably rated Type 3. This is rated allegedly Type 5. Though I would say it's probably Type 4 plus. It's probably reinforced, but I do not. I would be skeptical because most companies have tried to create a reliable, mass-produced body armor that stops high-velocity NATO rounds, has either gone broke trying, or after a few hits, the material strength just disappears. Because don't forget, when it stops a bullet, that impact breaks bonds throughout the suit. It will eventually break. And you're on a government contract to provide so many pieces of body armor, and soldiers are going to be increasingly reluctant once they see someone go down. They'll wear the body armor. They're just going to be increasingly reluctant to be reckless. Most don't be reckless in the first place. Body armor has given some, however, a false sense of security. But increasingly, Russia has entered the body armor market. Now, stopping a combat shotgun at range, there's the impact gel, also does have shockwave implications. You do still you can end up with broken ribs. And sometimes, even if the bullet is stopped, the damage, particularly liver and other soft organs, can still be there. Now, these new plates are being shown off. They do look to be a silicate ceramic. All right, get past the ads, get past the propaganda. Just see, yeah. Like I said, it'll take a few hits, as I thought. Take a few hits. Still got the freedom of mobility, but it's a vest, not full body armor. And we've all seen these YouTube videos. Come on, admit it. We've all seen it. Right to you really want polyvinyls. Yeah. And you can say, wait, if they could sew it, how come a bullet doesn't penetrate it? Well, it's different. You can tear the bullet does tear the material. It's the plates under it which take most of the impact. These are not, although they are somewhat, but not the commercial product known as Kevlar. They are somewhat similar in materials to help. They are tear resistant. But sewing pretty much just goes between the fibers, pushes them out of the way, which pretty much a bullet does it. Tries. Repeating. So Russia's body armor, I would say, is only now on par with that the Europeans are providing with Ukraine with. They too could somewhat stop a NATO bullet, but not entirely and not reliably. It would stop. And then after a few rounds, it won't. And it's already deformed after 3, so. But still, it's enough, say, in an ambush for that first shot to not kill you, which is the best you can hope for with captured equipment. Now, I'm not saying these Russian vests were made with captured equipment from Afghanistan, but I'm saying I got no proof it wasn't. Now, Russia attacked with over 200 drones, and Ukraine, well, they claim to have shot most down, but then won't tell you where they went. Now, Russian forces have taken control of Shevchenko in the Kharkiv regions. That's nothing of consequence. Russia's reporting on the loss, rather nice clickbaity total there, 20%. That's since the start of the war. Ukraine has lost 20% since the start of the war of its reserves in its year-to-date report. So 4th month in a row, but reserves are 20% down from the start of the war. However, this month was their largest loss of 5.6%, but due to GDP contraction and a 12.5% increase in spending. And of course, the 90 billion they borrowed is now going to be added to by another 70. And yet they say Russia's the one who's losing. All right. Now, this is one of those, take it with a grain of salt. There was a firefight. The Ukrainian army drones allegedly killed the foreign mercenaries as they surrendered. From the Ukrainian perspective, the Russians, they were attacking the Russians, and there's no mention of how the foreign mercenaries died. So take it with a grain of salt. One side says each side blames the other. But, Russia's saying they hunted down the survivors. Ukraine says nothing about survivors. From the Ukrainian perspective, I would pretty much say there's no way of knowing the mind of the drone operator at the time, who's never going to tell the truth. Even if he did it deliberately, he's never going to tell the truth. And if he did it deliberately, he better hope no one finds out who he is, because mercenaries tend to not like it when the side that hires them decides to cheap out and kill them. And they never take apologies either. No, sorry, it's just collateral damage. Yes, bang, so was that. So Ukraine's backers, that is Poland, Germany, France and England, although America's apparently back in the business thanks to Congress, but not quite, only sort of. All right. It's only until the next congressional budget, and then it starts all over again. All right. And plus, it's only adding to the foreign aid that they're already getting, so it's not really anything changed other than a slight increase. It's just all politicking. But still, they're upset that Zelensky openly tributed a Nazi collaborator. He can honour nationalist figures, but not one that, according to Poland, they honoured a nationalist figure who massacred Poles. And you think this is what they did to Hungary last month, and before that they did to Romania. They're sticking it to you. They're daring you to cut them off. They're daring you to do something. And when you don't, they believe in their mind that they now have power over you and could continue bleeding you dry of money and never pay their debts. Well, Zelensky's heroes Yeah, Polish President wants Zelensky stripped of state honours. That has not moved in Parliament, but it has been dismissed. Russia's making fun of the West, and the West is increasingly embarrassed, and the Polish Prime Minister is warning that support for Kiev has been hard to justify, and it's right. Poland's one of the few countries where it's close now. In other countries, they don't even care about Ukraine anymore. Germany's given up on Ukraine. As soon as the government's gone, so is Ukraine as far as. But that's what they're desperate. They're all desperate to expand Europe. Poland obviously wants to get its fingers back in the pie, because in part they want to rub it in. Because remember, Ukraine was Russia's boot. Okay, those boots in Eastern Europe were Ukrainian boots. Okay, only mixed with Russians. Okay, there were most of the Russian army was a mixture of Chechens, Turkmens, some Russians, Poles, somewhat, and Ukrainians. Most of the Russian army, Russian army, was in Russia on the borders. You had Belarus and all and Ukraine as the bulk of their occupation of Poland and Romania, etc. Ukraine, it's why no one likes Ukraine, because they had the boot on their neck. But for now, Poland initially started off saying the same thing. Oh, if they're liberated like us, they will become like us. And now increasingly Poland's seeing that is not what's going to happen, that they're a belligerent state who wants to reach into Poland's prosperity. Now, I'm not saying isolation of Russia has totally failed. Now, the Russians will say that, of course, but increasingly the attempts to isolate Russia and break them off from the international trade has somewhat failed, but it's not completely failed. If you were to try and openly take Russian oil out of Russia, if you're not one of the few privileged American companies or allies who got a little free pass from from the president, you are going to get your ship confiscated. Now, the Russian fleet, shadow fleet, is slowly decreasing. And more, it's becoming apparent that it's not a Russian shadow fleet, but a mixture of Russian, Chinese, and Indian ships. And they increasingly change flags. And Iran, some have gone to Iran, some take oil from Iran too. They're not all Russian oil either. But as for complete isolation, you just can't. They have minerals we need. Our industries will grind to a halt and we'll go back to the Stone Age, because we exported so much of our raw wealth that we don't have enough mineral reserves to stay out of trade. Whereas it's just a simple matter of nature that does not agree with your ideology. Nature don't care geopolitics. It's either Russia, China, and increasingly South America has isolated and said they're not going to mine their reserves. Not just our enemy in Brazil, but some of our friendly nations have also said it's not economically viable. And that's a reality. It's viable in Russia because it's closer to the surface, larger in quantity, and they have the industries ready built to process. So either we deal with Russia, India, or China. We just do not have the luxury of any other way. And America is relaxing its stance on Russia to weaken Europeans' position on this war. It's a delicate balance. Europe won't give up the war. It's whether you like it or not, Europe, you didn't vote for Donald Trump. You got no say in what Donald Trump does. So, like, if you want, it's like you can't work with others. You always have to dominate. You can't band together as a group and say, well, there's 10 of us and one of you. You're always going to obey us. And they say, no, you're Europe. You're one nation now. And they go, ugh. Yeah, you should have never unified. Common market was the best of both worlds. Maintain diversity. You keep talking about it. All right, sorry, folks, but this war has brought out the worst in European liberalism. And it's not even resembling European liberalism anymore. More and more, it's increasingly looking like the USSR. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please support the channel. You can support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. I appreciate each and every one of you. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, one of the best comments someone made the other day, then they deleted it. Don't know why, but they did. Wasn't me. I don't see why the platform would have done it, but it had to be the owner. They said, when it comes to the Ukraine war, it's just, there's no good side, just, eat the popcorn, and I agree with that, just eat the popcorn. There are no good sides in this. See you in the next video. Bye for now.